everyone, my name is Liv and welcome back to my channel. Today we will be discussing all things Posca Paint Pens. I love Poscas, they're my favorite art supply and I have learned quite a lot about them and want to share that knowledge with all of you, so let's get into it. Posca Paint Pens are a non-toxic water-based paint marker that provides dense, rich, and vibrant colors. These markers have multiple different nib types and come in a variety of different colors, including primary, glitter, fluorescent, and metallic. They also have more products available, as well as some extra info about Poscas on their website. Poscas work on all surfaces shown here in most paper. I recommend going for a good quality and high GSM paper. From my experience, I found that cardstock and mixed media paper work best. Posca nibs also have a very rough texture, so I would avoid using thin paper like printer paper. Poscas dry permanent on most porous surfaces and are removable on glass. To activate your Posca pen, first make sure the cap is firmly on your pen and shake it a few times, then press the nib up and down a few times until the paint comes out. This may take quite a few shakes and pressing of the nib, but eventually the paint will flow out. As you can see, the paint is just starting to flow here. Here's a close-up. So I'll just give it a few more pushes and make sure you're not being too aggressive with your nibs. Just be patient, and there you go. It works great. Blending method 1 is the wet on wet method. For this method, you're going to want to take two similar colors. I'm using a dark and light pink, and blend from dark to light while the paint is still wet. Do this a few times until you get a nice seamless blend, just like this. One thing to keep in mind while doing this is you will get color transference like I'm showing you here. And here's what it looks like on an actual drawing. Personally, I think this method works best in small areas like I did here. I only use this method on the leaves. This method is the dry over dry method. All you do is put down your first layer of color like I've done with the light pink, and then go over the area you want where your shading to be with your darker color, which for me is this dark pink. It's out of focus a bit here, but I wasn't about to record this for a third time, so you get the idea, and here is the final result of the dry on dry method. Blending method 3 is the sectioning method. For this, first section off the parts you don't want the shading to be and color in that area with your main color. For me, it's light pink. Then take your darker color, mine's dark pink, and color in the parts you just sectioned off. This looks even better when you overlap the lines slightly. This is the final result, and personally I think the sectioning method looks a lot cleaner and crisper than the dry on dry method. This method uses water to blend, and it's really easy. So how I like to do this is take your main color and color until you get to the point where you want the colors blended. Then with your darker color, do the same thing, leaving a small gap in the middle where the two colors meet. Then take your water brush or a brush and some water and blend the two colors together. And here's the final result. Here's just a quick view of what all the blending methods look like all together. As you can see in this photo here, these nibs got pretty dirty from color transference, so we're going to clean these up. First thing you want to do is grab a paper towel with a wet spot and a dry spot. Then we're going to take our dirty nib and dab it gently on the wet spot of the paper towel until the nib is clean. Then do the same thing with the dry spot. And as you can see here, the nib is now completely clean. This first tip is really fun. You can use your Poscas like watercolor by shaking your pen and pressing down the nib onto some plastic until the paint flows out. Then pour a small amount of water using a dropper or a water brush onto the paint. Then take your brush and start painting your drawing. Something to keep in mind though is that when you add the water, the colors will appear lighter than the original color. I found that dark colors work a little better than the lighter ones. You can also mix different colors together and come up with some new colors. Using your Poscas this way is really fun and you can get pretty creative with it. If your Posca pens run out of ink, you can actually refill them. Now, unfortunately, Posca does not have any refillable ink available yet, but I found this article here that explains how you can refill your Poscas using any water-based paint, so I will link this website down below for those of you who are interested, but this is just a quick gloss over of the information. If your Posca marker has dried out, for example, if the cap was left off for too long and needs to be rehydrated, this tip will rehydrate your marker. So you're going to take out your nib and pop it into a glass of warm water. Then I'm going to swirl it around till the ink comes out and leave it in there for about a minute or two. Then remove the nib from the water, dry it off with a paper towel, and place it back into your marker. And as you can see, it's also cleaned the nib, but it's been dirty for a long time, so it's not going to be completely clean. This tip is really cool. So the Posca nibs are reversible. So if your nib is really dirty and cleaning it didn't clean it completely because it was left dirty for too long, then you can just reverse your nib so that the clean side is now facing up, just like this. Then put the cap back on, give it a good shake, and you now have a fresh, clean nib to use, and it is working just fine. Sometimes if you haven't used your Poscas in a while, the paint tends to separate and become watery, and the color looks dull, and they don't have that opaque and glossy look anymore. It doesn't really show up that well on camera, but all you have to do to fix this is give it a couple real good shakes, press the nib up and down a few times to get the paint flowing again, then just write with them until they become opaque and nice and glossy again. It only took me a few minutes of shaking and scribbling before the paint started working good as new. That's all I have for you today. I hope this was helpful. I'm not an expert when it comes to Posca paint pens. These are just things that I learned while using them. If you liked this video, give it a like, subscribe, hit that bell to get notified, and stay creative. Bye!